Doesn't need to be completely precise. Hello, welcome back to 3 Delirium. My name is AJ once again, and this week we're going to continue our series on some functional prints for repairing or improving things around the house. So today, I have this drawer. This is a drawer from my freezer, and ever since I moved in, it's had this crack on the front of it that looks like someone else who used to live here already tried to fix it using glue, but it hasn't held at all, and it's broken even worse than when we first moved in. So I'm going to see if I can find a way to use 3D printing to fix it, or at least make it not get worse. Let's see what we can come up with. So my initial impression of this project was to make some sort of like plastic staples or stitches to quickly kind of bind two pieces of plastic together while they help to dry, and then something that would also might not look too bad if left on after it's done, just for added reinforcement. Originally, that meant making these little nubs on each side with the bend tabs so that it could click into a hole that I drill that's exactly the same size, and then I could potentially click out. So maybe if these staples work really well, maybe I could even attach them to broken plastic things without any glue. But I am also very aware that I would not want the thing that I'm trying to fix to break and the staple be fine. So I might actually use the design without glue and make sure it's just little nubs like this that will go into the plastic. So with the design in SketchUp that I am satisfied with, I decided to move it over to my slicing software to get it ready for my 3D printer. But I'll be honest, this moment of figuring out why it looks so small took a lot longer than I realized. When I look at the slicing software, it uses X, Y, and Z axes rather than length, width, and height. And every time I'm messing with these two, to be honest, I have to think once again, which one's the Z-axis, which one's the Y-axis, which one's the X-axis. Feel free to rewind, but I can definitely show that I highlighted my entire project and connected everything to each other. I made every part of the model intersect with itself to avoid any slicing issues, but as I've just noticed here, my little nub is a hole on the underside. It's not an extension, it has just elevated itself. So it looks like making my project in SketchUp might not work this time. So it looks like I have to go right into Tinkercad. Tinkercad would probably have been the easier option to go to anyway, but it just means that the edges were not going to be quite as refined as they would have been if I would have been able to do it in the SketchUp software instead. At this point in the project, I was also very aware that I should kind of future-proof myself. So if I'm going through this trouble and everything seems to not work out at all as I expected it to, I should kind of take that into consideration. Like if I could make the project work if everything goes right and be okay if everything goes wrong, I should probably do that. So I decided to change the size of the tabs that I'm adding to it to be little teeny tiny ones. That way, if everything goes wrong, the holes that I have to drill initially will be much smaller, and therefore I could probably make another set of staples maybe with bigger holes or anything like that. But if I start with big holes, I'm kind of stuck with big holes. Now that they are done, they're very flexible since they're so thin, and the little plastic pieces on here, I think, should break before any damage would happen to the drawer itself. So it occurred to me that plastic would contract whenever it's frozen. So I did set this one in the freezer for about 5 hours, and I pulled it out and compared it to the size of another one that was still warm, and there was no difference in their size. at all. So it didn't seem to contract enough that it would cause any problems. Now, you can probably see on the front of this drawer here, when the previous person tried to repair this, they used a lot, and it looks like too much, super glue. And you can even see some trickling down this way. So instead of super glue, I might try this hobby cement. It is like a polyplastic liquid weld. So if it's good to permanently adhere my models stronger than the plastic itself is, it should do a pretty good job holding nice and strong with this, as well as with my stitches here. So my next procedure will be to find a drill bit that is exactly the same size as the little nubs here, and drill 2 holes on either side of this crack. Get started. Welcome back. I've assembled all of the things I should need. I have found a nice place to set my project while I'm working on it. And I'm going to start from the bottom of the drawer and work my way up. Just like when sewing, if you kind of get some things wrong and stitch over itself or something like that, it would create a wrinkle. But this solid plastic drawer won't allow me to wrinkle. So I definitely want to start on the bottom, and I'll add them further on as we work our way up. I have my 2 pieces here, and it doesn't need to be completely precise. I'll probably just align them on here. Use this paint marker to draw a little dot where each of the holes will need to be, and then I can find the drill bit that's the same size as the pegs, and then we can keep going from there. Measurement of the little peg was 2.9. So I might start with this drill bit, which I'm told is 2.5, and if that's too small, then I'll just go up. But if I start bigger, I can't go smaller. Side, I see that my hole is actually a little off, so I might redraw my mark, and I'll drill from there. Measure twice, drill once. one just broke off already, so we're off to a great start. Before adding any glue to it, but I might need to reprint some more since both of the other two have already broken. So I'll catch you back here very shortly. Excellent. So I've printed a far better quality version of my staple here, and I've also noticed that when printing this, since the printer had to go back and forth between the two little stubs, it did create a bit of overflow on the edge of each of these, which means it'd be pulling together tighter, as in pulling outward on the tabs themselves a little more than normal, or a little more than expected even. So if I just trim the inside of these pegs, maybe they will hold a little better. Now, the glue that I'm going to use is a poly cement meant for plastic models and the like that. It will like liquid weld everything together. And I checked the type of plastic symbol on the bottom of the drawer here, and it does say that it's a PS, polystyrene. So it should work as intended. It should be a really strong weld. But I might even add the glue to the pegs first, because it does kind of make them malleable and soften the plastic as well. So maybe instead of breaking when the stress is applied, maybe it'll just kind of flex and form to the new shape that I will want it to stay in. So the glue that's now on the drawer has sat for plenty of time, and I think I'm under a bit of a time limit to get this staple in here properly. Ah! Success! Success. Now this is going to need a lot of time to dry. The weld takes some time to set so that it can be manipulated and it can be touched. But for best results, it should probably sit around like 12 hours. So, with tabs that did not break off this time, I believe I would call this a success. It'll have to be a few weeks in the future. Maybe I would try to do an update video on how these have held together in the cold temperature of the freezer. But until then, thank you for joining me on 3 Delirium, and hopefully next time we can continue to all hallucinate about the possibilities of 3D printing. See you then.